Something is breaking here, and nobody is talking about it. When major hotels in Vegas default on loans and go into receivership, it's not just a Vegas problem. It's part of a bigger, broader economic issue. And for many of you, this will cause you and your positions, your livelihoods, to be at risk too. This is Stephen J. Campbell, and they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But that's a lie, and I'm here to tell you why. We're going to start off with the Downtown Grand, a hotel with a huge legacy, the former Lady Luck. But in January, it quietly slipped into receivership, meaning that the banks are now essentially calling all the shots on the property. And when it comes to Vegas, they're not the only casino property facing this challenge. Of the major players in Vegas, 3 of them are having issues. We, of course, have the Downtown Grand, breaking news, the Rio, which is on a refinance watch, and the Stratosphere, who recently went to a sale-leaseback situation with a private equity company. So now we're on fixed rent watch. But it isn't just a Vegas problem. This is the big killer of nationwide brands and businesses that you might know and love or even have worked for at some point. Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman. Of course, Hooters filed bankruptcy. They had $376 million in debt. Eddie Bauer, who took private equity credit loans for $1.7 billion. You can see it goes on and on. Now's where we get to how this actually comes for many of you and possibly your money, because many of you have invested in certain companies that do nothing but issue these kinds of loans to companies like the Downtown Grand or Eddie Bauer. And when those companies can't pay back, you're in the crosshairs. Big companies like Apollo Global Management, they've frozen withdrawals, meaning that if you have money in the fund, you can't get it back for now. Ares caps withdrawals at private credit fund after redemptions requests surge. So a lot of you guys put your money into companies like Apollo Global Management. And for a time, it was great. Just an upward kaboom to the moon until the last year or so. Now it's down because you really can't short a company like Apollo. You don't have the money for that. Nobody does. You want to do anything, you trade this. This is the NASDAQ. Look, you could trade it up overnight and you could have traded it down. Some of you guys could make thousands of dollars. I teach you how to do that. I'll get to that in a minute. So what ends up happening is that a company like a Vegas casino company or maybe a retail department store that has a bunch of real estate, they end up getting an offer from one of those companies like Apollo, the company where the stock has dropped that I just showed you. And the offer is quite lucrative. Sell us your real estate, sell us your real hard assets, and we'll give you billions of dollars of cash. But see, that's got a lot of people asking, how can private credit survive the stress test that's happening right now? And I feel like I actually owe you a whiteboard on this one to explain it quickly. See, when oil prices go up for a sustained amount of time, that means that money is taken out of the economy. People have to spend it on oil and petroleum and getting around. You know, for every 10 cents that gas goes up, nearly $100 million goes into oil and outside of spending on things. The less money in the economy, the less things like employment go up. They start to fall down because people are getting laid off because nobody's participating. And when people don't have any money, they don't spend on things like vacations to Vegas. They don't spend on different products. And when those private equity funded companies don't make any money and their money goes down, then they might just default on everything that they've borrowed. Which is why, as I've been telling you, you gotta learn how to utilize these markets to your advantage right now. Because let's be honest, you're looking here, sitting around waiting for some of you to buy the bottom of the market. You're trying to catch a falling knife. That's a bad idea. But what many of you don't realize is that every day the markets melt down and then pump back up, you're sitting on the sidelines while the greatest possibility to learn how to get wealthy is passing you by at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And in just a minute, I'm going to go through the entire flow chart I have here about how this private equity is going to melt down the economy. This matters a great deal to you because this will touch everything, just like the housing crisis in 2008. But for now, I want to talk about our sponsor, 1K a day. Now I'm going to do something considered really dumb from a business perspective, but I want to teach you something. See, I can see on this chart that the price, these bars, they all seem to accumulate right here. So all I do is I draw a yellow line and then I just wait to see if we're going to go down through the yellow line. I'm going to click a button, make a bunch of money. All right, $1,100. That's what I teach over 1,100 people in 1K a day. It's my course. It's how we help you get a better life going for yourself. Anybody could do this. You could teach what I just showed you to your 12-year-old kid if you wanted to. So if you're ready to live a better life, what the heck are you waiting for? If you're one of the first 4 people watching, to click the link in the first pinned comment below. At checkout, after you click on get access, type in the code news39. You're going to get the entire course for $249. Put that into perspective. You're going to go to the Best Buy and buy one of these for $500. It's a silly little action cam that becomes e-waste when the new thing comes out next year. But with what you learn in 1K a day, you could theoretically pay yourself forever. Oh, and do us both a solid. Do it before I increase the price, because I increased the price just a week or so ago. And I think I'm going to $300 next. So what does a downtown Vegas casino that took private equity, companies like Apollo, who's not letting people take their money out of the funds, what does all that, the price of Brent oil crude, European stocks, Wall Street, what does that all have to do with the market and unemployment and everything else melting down into the ground? I'm glad you asked. I made a chart for that. So it all starts with investors, pension funds, insurers, wealthy individuals, some of these things you can buy into. You don't got to be rich. What happens is these investors, they go over to private equity firms and they deposit their money hoping to get some kind of a return. The problem is the private equity firms, what they do is they take your money and they put it into oftentimes high volatility, high risk things to make a return for you, to pay you. These are things like casinos, hotels, real estate, small size companies, maybe even software. And that gets up to here where we have the pressure that builds, right? Higher rates, weak sales, rising defaults. Now pause for a minute, because I recently went back to live streaming. I live stream on Saturdays starting around 4 p.m. and on Sundays in the mornings. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and give us your best comment. I read your comments at the end of the videos. In this case, I want to know, are you worried about the economy going forward, or do you think this is just a little dipsy-do, a little blip, a little correction? But it's stuff like this, the Iran war with all these different threats to do this and that, and oh my gosh, and so is joining the war and blah, blah, blah. Don't make me talk about it. I will lose half of you. I'm not going to. But then we couple that with oil costs being super high. We got the International Monetary Fund saying that the shock of the war is dimming economies across the world, for that matter. Well, we get back to this, right? So now we see here weak sales, right? Weak sales, rising defaults. Why? Well, because when people are all pent up, like when consumer confidence is falling off a cliff into 2020, you go short on this chart. This is one of those short situations, right? Then people are simply not participating in the economy. Well, now we're at this point where the stress starts to spread, right? These lenders, these companies that you put your money with, they might even get losses, right? Because these companies can't pay back, they default, they stop their withdrawals. But the withdrawals are happening because people are doing essentially an old-fashioned run on the banks. Anybody remember It's a Wonderful Life, where George Bailey walks into the bank and everybody's mad and they want their money back and they're panicking. And he's like, well, your money isn't here. It's in Bill's house and Mark's house. You remember that? Well, it's at that point, these companies, they either get sold or they get shut down. They can't pay what they owe. They take massive losses. Company goes away, or they go into bankruptcy and get restructured. And when that happens, when these bankruptcies happening, these companies go out of business or they restructure, you have job losses, less investment in the companies, people have slowdown of growth. It's systemic risk to everything. It's like a giant C word that just spreads through the company and hits every part of the economy. And I tell you this because I love you. Because a lot of you guys in my comments, you're like, I'm 68 years old. My money is set. I get this much coming in from investments. I want you to check on those investments. That's the first thing you might do. Call up your financial guy and say, hey, where is my money parked? Am I in any of these types of things that are very high risk, that are at risk of going upside down right now? Because I'm telling you right now, this right here, this should never have happened. This shouldn't have happened. This was a company that was managing itself from my opinion, very, very poorly. On a side note, I remember getting kicked out of the Downtown Grand for streaming. Seems that in retrospect, they probably should have invited all the streamers in the world to the property because I personally like it there. I think it's great. It's one of the only hotels downtown where you can get a beer and a hot dog for like under $5. So while it's open, you might want to go check that place out if you're down on Fremont Street. But this just reinforces why y'all need to understand why drawing a simple yellow line somewhere where 2 points intersect and clicking a button can cause you guys to see gains of maybe $1,000 a day. Click below, be one of the first 4 people. Get in on the course or don't. But if you don't, let me tell you, man, things are breaking apart. And it's not something that's sudden right now. Because if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. And the big boys that control all the money at the top, they're just going to keep making money off your backs. Now we're going to get to some of your comments. This is very interesting. We have E.S. Murphy here, who is watching a video that I did years ago, The Rise and Fall of Steve Wynn. It's a documentary story. It's on my channel. I'll put it next to my head when we close out the video. He says that he stayed at the Encore last month. It was amazing. 5 stars. Everything's so well done and beautiful. Yes, 100%. You owe it to yourself. If you can afford the Wynn or the Encore, stay at the Wynn or the Encore. A friend of mine, Jay Bravo, when he comes to town, he loves that place, and he's forced me to love it too. We have D.E. Clark here commenting on an experience they had at Peter Luger's Steakhouse. It's an expensive sounding one. They say that in April of 2025, then their partner went into Peter Luger's and ordering with 2 shrimp cocktails, 2 soda waters, sat at the bar. Price for the shrimp cocktails were $60 for 8 shrimp and $16 for the soda waters, $188. He said the shrimp are great and the service was impeccable, but $188 is quite stiff. And then we have Shades Cal, longtime viewer of the channel, reacting to when I was explaining how if you're riding the bus in Vegas, you have to be careful not to sit near the back door and have stuff in your hands. There are thieves on the buses. Steven, are you saying that on the Deuce, which goes up and down the strip, have passengers who have had items stolen from them right on the bus? Absolutely, 100%. That's what I'm saying. There's always vampires out there trying to suck your blood, your hard work. If you're on a bus, it doesn't matter what city you're in America, you're on your phone oblivious, you're wearing headphones, you have this in your hands. It happened to me in Southern California back in 2005. I was down in the nice part of town, right by Balboa Park, where all of the tourists go. Some guy stole my iPod video out of my hand. I was watching a video on it. You gotta be careful. You gotta be mindful of your surroundings. You have AirPods, AirBuds, whatever you have, put them in your ears and stick that stuff in your pockets. Don't be a victim. And most crime has a victim, and the victim never blames themselves. I blame myself for losing my iPod. But leave me a comment below. Let me know if you think the markets are just in a temporary little blip, or if you think it's melting down forever. I'll read your best comments on my next video. There's a video next to my head. One of them is the Steve Wynn video. It's a documentary. Many of you have seen it. There's another video that YouTube chose for you. Go watch it. It helps the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. I have to beg you, because as we transition over, we're losing a lot of people who just want to see me talk about buffets and zip lines, and that just ain't me. My style is to teach, and I love to do it. So support the channel, leave us a comment, subscribe, get your copy of 1K a day. Until we meet the next time, as my mentor always tells me and I pass on to you, just keep swimming.